Hey guys, my name is Tyler, I'm 22, I do electrical work in Houston, and I want to tell you about the 7 months I spent falling for someone who wasn't real. The thing that cracked it open was a sound. A broken app chimed through a phone call 2 seconds coming from the wrong direction. I almost said something about it and then didn't. The kind of work I do, you get used to noticing when something doesn't fit. A wire gauge that doesn't match the panel. A breaker that trips at the wrong load. You log it and come back to it. I logged the sound. I kept coming back to it. I grew up in Pasadena, just east of Houston, refinery town, working class. My dad ran a small drywall operation. My mom worked checkout at an HEB for 12 years. I got into electrical work through my Uncle Ray when I was 16 and have been at it since. The home brewing thing came from Ray too. He'd gotten into it a few years back and it became this thing we'd do on Sunday afternoons while football was on. I got my own basic setup about a year and a half ago. A few buckets, a kettle, something to do after long shifts that wasn't just sitting on my phone. That's how I found Brew Talk, a mid-sized Discord server for home brewers, couple thousand members. I joined in August because I'd hit a wall with a wheat beer. Got my question answered in about 20 minutes by 3 different people. Cassie was one of them. She explained the fix without making me feel like an idiot for not knowing it. A lot of people in those spaces want you to know how much they know. She just answered the question and moved on. We talked in the public channels for about 6 weeks after that, just back and forth about brewing, nothing personal. Then in September she DM'd me to ask how the wheat beer had turned out. And that was the start of it. After that it was pretty much every day. Texts through Discord first, then she gave me her number and we moved to regular messages and eventually calls. She was from Pittsburgh, she said. Worked in property management, had been home brewing for 4 years. She was funny in this dry specific way that only landed if you were actually paying attention. On calls she was warmer, easier. I like both. The calls were always audio only. Her camera never worked. There was this ongoing thing about her apartment Wi-Fi and a Bluetooth headset she kept meaning to replace. She mentioned it 3 or 4 times, always a little apologetic, always with some specific detail that made it sound plausible. Her voice had this slightly processed quality, like someone on a cheap mic in a bad room. She said it was the headset. I didn't push on it. What I thought about was the conversations. Then there was the night in November. I'd been on a job site all day with no AC and 90-degree heat and 100% humidity, which if you haven't experienced it, it's its own specific kind of misery. By the time I got to my truck, I was done, just completely done. I called her automatically, before I'd even really decided to. She picked up and asked how my day was, and I said something like, honestly, I feel like a pair of old dirty socks that a high school teammate left in his locker junior year, and she laughed. This real laugh, not polite, and she said that was genuinely disgusting. And then she said, I kind of wish you were here, we could take a shower, and you'd stop smelling like someone's locker. I remember sitting there in my truck in the parking lot just grinning at my steering wheel like an idiot. And then the conversation just kept going. She asked what the job was. I told her about the commercial site and the panel work, and she actually listened and asked follow-up questions that weren't dumb. And at some point I realized I'd been in my truck for 45 minutes and hadn't noticed. We talked about her week, about a craft beer she was working on called a saison, about nothing specific, and by the time we hung up I wasn't tired anymore. I thought about her the whole drive home. By January we were talking every night, and I'd stopped pretending I wasn't looking forward to it. I told her once that she was the person I most wanted to talk to at the end of a day, and she got quiet for a second and then said she felt the same way. Just said it plain and then moved on like she didn't need to make a thing of it. In February I told her I was falling for her. I typed it and sat there, deleted it, typed it again, deleted it again, sat there probably 10 minutes, which is a long time to sit staring at your phone. Then I sent it. She wrote back right away, said she knew, said she felt it too, said she wanted to meet when the timing was right. I read that maybe 6 times, put my phone down on the couch and just sat there in my apartment for a while not doing anything. I'm telling you that part because of what comes later. The wrong note came at the end of February. I was in my truck in a Home Depot parking lot after a shift. Called her from the lot because it had been a few days and I had a question about the saison I was working on. We talked for maybe 25 minutes. The saison, her weak, easy conversation. I was tired and talking slower than usual, and at some point there was a pause, and in that pause I heard something through the call. A broken chime, 2 notes slightly off. This specific glitchy sound you'd know if you'd heard it enough times. 2 seconds and then gone. If you've never been in a small recreational sports league, that probably doesn't mean much. But our Sunday Flag Football League used an app called Field Connect to manage schedules. And Field Connect had the worst notification sound of any app I've ever had on my phone. Everybody in the league complained about it constantly. Nobody turned it off because you'd miss schedule changes. I'd heard that specific broken chime twice a week for a year and a half. I almost said something and then didn't. She was in Pittsburgh. Field Connect was used by leagues all over the country. Plenty of people had that app. It didn't mean anything. That's what I told myself. 3 days later, she mentioned a brewing supply shop on Spencer Highway. Word of mouth only, no website. A friend had told her about it and she thought I might like it given where I lived. Spencer Highway is in Pasadena. That shop had been open maybe 8 months with no online presence at all, and I knew it because I'd driven past it twice and kept meaning to stop. There was no way she found that name unless she was local or someone local told her. I told myself someone in the forum probably mentioned it. Maybe I had mentioned it at some point and forgotten. But I kept coming back to it. I didn't know why yet, and that was the part that bothered me. I went through 7 months of messages over 2 nights, all of them, in order, sitting at my kitchen table, just looking the way you look at a panel when something doesn't add up and you're not sure where to start. 3 things. The Spencer Highway shop in February. A comment in November about the H-E-B on Fairmont Parkway having a good beer selection. Fairmont Parkway is in Pasadena, and nobody outside the area knows that store by name. And in December, a complaint about 290 traffic mentioned like something she dealt with regularly. 290 is a Houston freeway. You don't deal with Houston freeway traffic from Pittsburgh. 3 Houston references across 7 months dropped like they were nothing. I reverse searched her profile photo that same night. 2 results, a stock image licensing site and a Brazilian telecom company's website from 4 years ago. The woman in the photo was a stock model. I ran her phone number through a lookup app. Burner. But the exchange came back to an 832 area code. 832 is Houston. I sat in my kitchen for a long time after that. I had this impulse to call her right then and ask, and I sat with it until it passed. If I called her with what I had, she'd deny it, and I'd have nothing to catch her on. I needed to know who it actually was first. I called Mara the next morning. Mara is my cousin, 28, paralegal at a litigation firm downtown. She spent 4 years watching people lie on paper for a living, and she has this specific patience for it that I don't have. She's not warm in the way some people are warm. She's useful in the way some people are useful, and I trust that more. She came over that night. I heard her car in the lot, and when I opened the door, she already had a legal pad under her arm. She set it on the kitchen table before she sat down, didn't say hello, just looked at me and said, "Okay." I laid everything out, the chime, the 3 Houston references, the stock photo, the 832 number. She wrote things down without interrupting, and when I finished, she looked at her notes. "Read me a voice note transcript," she said. I pulled one up from January, Cassie talking through the grain bill on a porter she was working on, specific about water chemistry. I started reading out loud, and Mara stopped me about a third of the way through. "That phrase, say it again." "Which one?" She pointed at the screen. I read it. "If you dial the ratio back, you're not losing anything, you're just moving where the weight lands." Mara leaned back and looked at the ceiling for a second. "I've heard someone talk that way, not about beer, but that construction." She shook her head. "I can't place it yet." She looked at the notes. "Who in your life would know all 3 of those Houston references?" And there it was, the stock photo and the area code I could explain away one at a time. But someone who knew Spencer Highway and the Fairmont H-E-B and 290 all at once, who'd let those things slip over 7 months. That was someone from here. Someone who knew Pasadena the way I knew it. "Someone I know," I said. Mara wrote that down. She pulled her laptop around. "Then let's find them." We started with the phrase. Mara went through every mutual contact we had in common. Facebook, Instagram, anyone connected to the Flag Football League. I sat next to her and we went through them one at a time. It took about 40 minutes. We were almost through the list when she stopped scrolling. "Aaron Webb," she said. "Read something he's written." I pulled up Aaron's Facebook. A post from last year about a work project. And there it was. This way of constructing a sentence, this specific thing about where something lands. Not identical, but the same habit of mind. I stared at the screen. Aaron Webb. 2 years I'd known him. Flag football on Sundays. Quiet, funny guy. The kind whose best lines land a beat late. I'd always thought he was solid. Mara ran the reverse image search again and cross-referenced against Aaron's network until she found a link between the stock model's photo and a pin on a private Pinterest board that had Aaron's email in the account metadata. A detail so small and careless it almost looked intentional, like some part of him had wanted to be found. "That's him," she said. I didn't say anything for a minute. I was trying to make it fit together, and it wouldn't fit together. I want to be straight with you about what that felt like, because it wasn't one thing. I'm not gay. I thought I'd been talking to a woman for 7 months. I'd told her I was falling for her, and I meant every word of it. The shower joke. The night in the parking lot when I sat there for 45 minutes without noticing. All of those things were attached to Aaron Webb now, and I couldn't make those two things sit in the same place in my head. He had been there. Every Sunday. Standing 10 feet away from me. Mara was watching me and not saying anything. She knew to let it settle. After a while I said, "I want to talk to him." "I know," she said. "I'm coming with you." I started to say no and she cut me off. "Tyler, I'm coming with you." She said it in this specific way that meant she wasn't asking and wasn't going to argue about it. And honestly, I was glad, because I didn't fully trust what I was going to do when I was in the same room as him. I was angrier than I'd ever been about anything, and it was the cold kind of angry, which is the kind that scares me more than the hot kind. I texted Aaron, "Hey, can we talk Thursday work?" He wrote back in 15 minutes. "Sure, come by after 6:30. Thursday night I sat in Mara's car outside his complex in Katy for about 5 minutes before either of us got out. She didn't say anything. She just let me sit. He answered in a work shirt with his badge lanyard still around his neck, said, "Hey, come on in," and then he saw Mara behind me and something moved in his face, just a flicker gone fast. He stepped back and let us in. His apartment was tidy except the kitchen counter, dishes in the sink, couple of Amazon boxes stacked by the fridge. Houston Dynamo banner on the wall. I set the folder on his kitchen table, reverse image documentation, the 832 trace, the Houston reference list. His email and the Pinterest metadata. He looked at it. He didn't open it. He already knew. "Aaron," I said. He looked up. 7 months, I said, every night. I told her things I don't tell people. I told her I was falling for her. My voice was coming out harder than I wanted it to. "And it was you. You were sitting across from me every Sunday." He looked at the table. "Look at me," I said. He looked at me, and I saw it then. Not guilt exactly, something more complicated than guilt. Like he'd known this was coming for a long time and had no idea what to do now that it was here. "Why?" I said. He was quiet for a long time. Mara was standing near the door, and she hadn't moved and wasn't going to. "I had feelings for you," Aaron said. "I knew you were straight. I knew nothing was ever going to happen, but I wanted—" He stopped, started again. "I wanted to at least have some version of it, even if it was just—" He shook his head. "Even if it was just what?" I said. "Even if I didn't know? Even if I never got to decide if I was okay with it?" He didn't answer. "You used me," I said. "You made me fall for someone that wasn't real, and I did it, and it was real to me, and you knew the whole time it was just, what? A thing you were doing for yourself." "I know," he said quietly. "Don't tell me you know. Tell me you understand what you actually did." He looked at the table again. "I took something from you that you didn't know you were giving." "Yeah," I said. "That's exactly what you did." I let that sit for a second. Then something else came up that I needed to ask. "That voice," I said, "on the calls, was that someone else? Were you having someone talk to me?" He shook his head. "No, it was a voice changer app." I just looked at him. "On my phone," he said, "real time. You download it and it shifts your voice." I thought about every call. Her voice slightly off, that processed quality I'd written off as a bad headset. The headset story he'd given me 3 or 4 times with all those specific details. And the whole time it was him, sitting wherever he was, talking into his phone through an app, listening to me say the things I said. "So you planned it," I said. "Before the first call, you already had the app ready." He didn't answer, which was an answer. I said, "I don't have a problem with you being gay. I have a problem with you lying to me. You used me. I never agreed to any of it." He nodded at the floor. "The person in those conversations was real," I said. "The things I said were real. You were the only one in it who knew it wasn't." Mara moved slightly near the door, not toward Aaron, just a small shift that reminded me she was there and I was okay. Aaron said, "I'm sorry, Tyler. I know that doesn't—" "I'm going to go," I said. "I just needed you to hear it from me." I picked up the folder and left. Mara came out a few seconds behind me. We sat in her car for a minute without talking. Then she said, "Give me your phone." I handed it to her. She opened Instagram and typed something, read it back to herself, changed a word, and posted it from her own account. She handed the phone back so I could read it. It was a first-person account. Vague enough that no name appeared, specific enough that anyone in their mutual world would know. A man she knew had built a fake female persona on a hobby forum, had used it to develop an intimate emotional relationship with a straight man he had feelings for, had let that man fall in love with a person who didn't exist. No name, no identifying details about Tyler, just the shape of what Aaron had done, sitting in public where the people who knew him could find it. "He'll know it's about him," I said. "That's the point," Mara said. I handed the phone back. She hit post. I don't know exactly what happened after that on Aaron's end. I heard through a mutual friend a few weeks later that he'd gone quiet on social media and stopped coming to Sunday football. I don't know if anyone confronted him about the post. I don't know if he told anyone anything. That's not mine to know. What I know is that he knew people had seen it, that the thing he'd kept hidden for so long was now half visible in the world. Not because I'd put it there, but because of what he'd chosen to do. A few months after all of this, I went to an in-person homebrew meetup for the first time. A group that meets at a tap room off Washington Avenue on the first Saturday of the month. I'd been seeing it in Brew Talk for months and always had a reason not to go. I brought the Saison, the one I'd been working on when all of this started. A guy named Phil asked how I got into it. I started to answer and felt myself about to add more, extra detail. The kind of thing I always used to do, filling space, giving more than anyone asked for because I thought that's what made people feel close to you. I just said my uncle got me into it. Phil nodded and went back to his beer. I stayed for about 2 hours, talked to maybe 6 people, said enough and not more than enough. That felt like something. If you want to hear more stories like this, please like and subscribe. It would really mean a lot to me.